Welcome our next presenter, Kelly McBee. She's a policy analyst at Californians Against Waste. There, she researches, analyzes, and advocates for CAW's legislative and regulatory priorities, which relate to producer responsibility and single-use plastics. Kelly's work includes ensuring the viability of CAW's flagship environmental policy, the California Bottle Bill, and California's carpet, mattress, paint, electronics, battery, hazardous waste, end-of-life programs. So she currently serves on the California Carpet Stewardship Program Advisory Committee and the California Mattress Recycling Advisory Committee, and she will be sharing about preserving California's bottle bill. Please welcome Kelly.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here today. So as was mentioned, I have the privilege of working with a fantastic organization, a group that I was actually fangirling for a long time before I got the opportunity to work with them. Californians Against Waste is a 40-year-old environmental advocacy organization, as old as NCRA, I learned today. And Californians Against Waste works to write, sponsor, and advocate for legislation at the state capitol. We also work on the other end to work with state agencies to help make sure that the bills we pass and the programs we create are implemented successfully. A lot of my program portfolio lately has been focused on plastic pollution, and within that, I want to talk about California's beverage container recycling program, known as the Bottle Bill. And so before I get into those program specifics, I really want to frame what we're facing with plastic pollution and some of the ways that we can solve it, including helping the success of our bottle bill. So this is an Ellen MacArthur Foundation graph, the next two will be, and this demonstrates the magnitude of our plastic production. So in the last 50 years, plastic production has increased 20-fold, so huge. This can be associated with a lot of things, including our new reliance, or relatively new reliance, on single-use plastics and our convenience society. So where does that leave us? Uh-oh. What are the negative externalities of this huge increase in plastic production? Some of these, hopefully, you can see on this chart. The second line demonstrates that by 2050, there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean by weight. Also, by 2050, 20% of our oil consumption will be dedicated to the production of plastics. So as California especially is shifting away towards renewable energies, we are propping up the oil industry by continuing to rely on plastic. And one of the results on this as well is that 15% of our global carbon budget by 2050 will be entirely dedicated to this plastic production. So when we are talking about plastics, it's important to understand that plastic pollutes at every stage of life, from extraction to production to disposal. And these are slides I snipped from Story of Stuff's newest video on this, so go check that out. And these are a lot of the repercussions of a plastic life cycle that is not closed loop. And what I want to talk about is some of the repercussions of that. I'll do this very quickly. So 8 million tons of plastic end up in the ocean every year. Once plastic is in the ocean, it never goes away. It continues to break down into smaller and smaller pieces that are microplastics. And there, we have now seen that microplastics have been found in 1/4 of all fish and 1/3 of all shellfish. This is seafood intended for human consumption. So I know there's a lot of vegetarians here, myself included. So you might be thinking, I don't eat seafood, not a problem. But it's also been found in 94% of US drinking water contaminated with microplastics. There are 2 even newer studies than this demonstrating that microplastics are in bottled and tap water alike. So what do we do about this? Where does the bottle bill come in? So the bottle bill has a proven track record of intervening in this life cycle of plastics, this system that's not very closed loop, and it has lots of toxic repercussions. The bottle bill is one of the oldest and most successful bottle bill programs in the world. It's been in California for 30 years. And it has problems, and we need to help it. And because this system has problems, it's contributing to our overall plastic pollution crisis. So what's happening with the bottle bill? Well, right now, oil is cheap. It's cheaper to make virgin plastic, so these are new materials, than it is to recycle them. And that means that when our recyclers are collecting this material, they're not getting very high prices for it. They're not getting enough money coming in. They can't sell their bales for as much as they need to. So that's low scrap values. What happens when recyclers don't get enough money into the system is that they close. And then since 2013, which was California's peak year of beverage container recycling, we have seen close to 1,000 recycling centers close. This is nearly 40% of our entire beverage container infrastructure. And that has caused record low numbers in our beverage container recycling rate. California has a statutory goal of keeping our beverage container recycling around 80%. We have met that or achieved it for many years, but just recently we saw that dip below 80% for the first time in a decade. And the result of that is that 1.7 million beverage containers are littered or landfilled every day. So we need to fix this program. And if that isn't scary enough, let's remember some of the benefits that this program has given us over the last 30 years. So we are a model of success. More than 362 billion beverage containers. This is plastic, aluminum, and glass. And I meant to mention earlier that about half of the bottles in our beverage container recycling program are in fact plastic. But 362 billion of those have been recycled or diverted from landfill, which is the result of 41 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions prevented, equivalent to saving nearly 96 million barrels of oil. This is a huge economic stimulus to California's economy, $1.6 billion every year, more than $300 million to California's recycling infrastructure alone. We are a national leader in this effort. We have the most successful bottle bill program in the country and the second largest in the world, second behind Germany. It's a huge job creator. There are more than 10,000 people employed in this recycling infrastructure. And it's become part of California's values. The bottle bill program was my introduction to recycling. I think it's one of our most public-facing recycling programs. People understand that their beverage container has value, that there's 5 or 10 cents associated with that, and that there's benefits, both environmental and economic, of recycling it. And in California, 50 million containers are recycled every day. So how are we going to fix it? So the Governor Brown administration, CalRecycle, our state assembly, our state senate, we're all aware. We know there's a problem. There have been lots of workshops, lots of hearings, lots of discussions happening about supporting this program. And for the last 2 years, groups like CAW have been working on a legislative fix. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to see a legislative fix go through the system yet, but Californians Against Waste and several other groups are committed to hopefully making 2018 the year that we see that. And these are some of the solutions that we expect to come about. So to fix our bottle bill crisis, we need to financially support recycling centers. Our beverage container recycling fund has a surplus. We want to see that money be used to help open new recycling centers. These are the buyback centers in your local communities. And we want to see that money go to supporting recycling centers that tend to have higher costs of operation and are more likely to close. These are often the lower volume centers or the centers in more rural areas. We need to restore plastic market development payments. So in 2006, California passed a law that in that time has funneled millions of dollars into capturing, processing, and manufacturing plastic products here in California with our collected plastic beverage containers. So this supports in-state recycling and ensures demand for those products. But in lieu of the past 2 years, us not being able to pass legislative fix, that program recently sunsetted. So we expect to see 1 or 2 legislative solutions this year to restore that program and make sure that we can capture and recycle that material. We need to revise some outdated program provisions. So in the last 30 years, there have been dozens of bills tweaking the program. One of the next tweaks that needs to be made is making sure that the cost surveys that the state conducts, making sure that the payments made to recycling centers cover their costs so that when those scrap values fluctuate, they get a payment that is sufficient to keep them open. Oftentimes, those adjustments aren't made in time to help keep them open. So changing those statutory structures. And all of this is going to be refocusing program dollars ultimately to provide increased recycling opportunities to California. There's a contract between the program and Californians that when you buy your bottle, you have a right to have easy access to recycle it. So fixing the California bottle bill is a part of the problem towards solving our plastic pollution crisis. We're fortunate in the legislature this year to have a huge package of bills addressing plastic pollution. I'm not going to go into them too much because there's other presentations that'll focus on some of these. I will highlight SB 168 by Senator Wajkowski, which is a bill that would give authority to CalRecycle to set minimum content requirements for beverage containers. So saying if this container is made, it needs to be made with, at least X% of material that has been recycled. So very exciting opportunity. We're super excited too. And in closing, I just want to say that Californians Against Waste is there working on these package of bills. There's dozens of other groups that are doing this work too, but the legislature needs to hear from you. Please write letters supporting this package of bills and others. Please sign up for our distribution lists, our Facebook. Get involved. There's only so much voice that we have, and really when members hear from their constituents, you really do make a difference. Thank you so much.
Any quick questions for Kelly? Raise your hand. Do I see you scanning the room? Up there in the corner because I forgot him last time. Jenny, quick.
Hi. So one thing that I'm a student at UC Berkeley, and we have a contract with Pepsi until 2021. So basically, we will be selling their plastic bottles on our campus until 2021. We also have a zero waste goal by 2020, as do a lot of other public organizations within California. So I was wondering what you think about mobilizing the private sector more in helping try to fix this this plastic bottle problem.
Yeah, excellent question. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation has recently spearheaded an initiative to contact these manufacturers of plastic bottles, and I believe they recently had 11 companies, these are big brand name companies, announce their commitments to both utilize recycled material in their production and also make their bottles 100% recyclable. So these commitments are huge. They took a lot of work. We're going to see how they're implemented, but absolutely it's happening, and it's a huge point in that life cycle, is starting as upstream as possible.
So the legislature knows that these recycling centers are closing and people are getting laid off from those jobs. They know that the bottle bill was set up to subsidize those recycling centers, and they know that there's a surplus of funds to do it. Why aren't they doing it? And what external forces are influencing them not to do it?
Sure, we ask ourselves that all the time. The easiest answer, it's a huge program, very complicated, lots of different facets, and accordingly, lots of different ideas about how to fix it. So the way that CAW has tried best to engage is by bringing as many of the stakeholders together as possible to create a comprehensive proposal. So we don't have bills in print right now, but when we do, there's a lot of work that goes into preparing them to make sure that as many people as possible can be in support, and that although there are all these different ideas, we can provide a solution that will appease as many people as possible. But it's important in doing that that we ensure that we present it that way, that we package it that way, and that we bring as many people to the table as possible, and then also that those people vocalize their support for one solution so that we can reach that necessary agreement, because that's where we've been held up in the past.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Great.